Hello everyone, and welcome back to Apollo Justice Ace Attorney. So, previously, we pretty much wrapped up the first investigation phase and discovered that Drew Misham is an art forger. And underneath the paintings are sketches showing scenes from Apollo's past. Drew Misham was drawing previous cases. He drew the poker game, he drew the noodle cart, he drew the flaming guitar man on the stage. So things are getting really weird. And things are going to get even weirder because here in this court day, it's going to be different. There's going to be a jurist system where we have to not only impress the judge, but also 6 jury members. So I'm really excited to see what's what. So let's go. Good morning. So, you're Vera, right? I'm Trucy. Trucy Wright. That's right with a W. But not right? We're on your side. You can tell us anything. Please? Good morning. She speaks! Not bad. But I think you'd do better with a little smile, you know? You're so pretty. You need to sell yourself, you know? Drucy, let's take it easy for starters. Thank you for taking my case. Well, that's cute. Also, she has a lion on her overalls. That's great. Okay, well, that's a start, I guess. There she goes with the nail polish again. That's great, really. It's so cultured. Want to try? Ooh, really? Girls. The victim, Drew Misham, was a forger, and a stolen painting was found in his studio. A life of crime, really. Maybe one that led to his death. October 8th, 10 a.m. sharp. Courtroom number 3. Ah, so it is Clavier. Okay. Well, we will now, begin the, trial of, Vera Misham. Does he have stage fright? Is the judge okay? His voice is all raspy, and he's looking around all nervous-like. The repercussions of today's trial will most likely be felt for a long time, and may indeed alter our legal system forever. Today is a test of the jurist system, and the first step toward a new order in our courts. Daddy's secret mission! The jurists will function like a jury. It is hoped their inclusion will help the courts to better reflect the people's will. Why aren't there any jurists in the courtroom? 3 closed-circuit cameras watch this courtroom at all times. The jurists have access to everything that transpires. Jurists, Judge Well and Judge Cool. Now see here, Prosecutor Gavin. I was going to say that. My apologies, Air Judge. Jurists, today, judge today's trial coolly, if you would be so kind. The jurists are unbound by the letter of the law. They don't affect the trial with evidence, but by their feelings. Okay. And we're about to find out just what effect they're going to have. Very well, Prosecutor Gavin. The details of the case, if you would. The victim is the painter Drew Misham. He was killed in his own studio. His coffee was poisoned By whom, you ask? Whoa. Man, sudden flashbacks to Godot. Oh man, coffee. By none other than the defendant, Vera Misham. There wasn't any poison in the coffee. Aktelin, someone has been doing their homework. Indeed, poison was not present in the coffee, but on the mug itself. The mug? Ah, residue was found on the rim, I see. The autopsy report describes the manner of our victim's death. The court accepts this as evidence. Ah. According to this report, well, let's take a look ourselves. Yep, that's atrocanine poisoning. 9 through 9:30 p.m. On the 6th. The victim's death was caused by atrocanine poisoning, a chemical compound that does not occur naturally. Lethal dosage is a mere 0.002 mg. Holy crap. A touch of atrocanine in the body is a touch of the Reaper's scythe. Very well, Prosecutor Gavin. You may present your witness. I have for you today a simple man for a simple case. A man who witnessed the murder in its entirety. That journalist, no doubt. Oh boy. Here we go. The witness will state his name and occupation. Ah, right. Well, for starters, my name's Sparkbrushel. My job is a lone observer of the world. In other words, a freelance journalist, right? If you don't mind, I'd like to state something here for the record. Yes, Mr. Brushel? I dislike conclusions, specifically the jumping to aspect of conclusions. Preconceptions make Park Sandbox of endless desert waste, end quote. But you are a journalist. You said so yourself yesterday. Well, that's true, yes. But you must understand, I stand before you today a man with a dream. I'm offering you my testimony in exchange for exclusive rights to the story. Scoop turns Mr. Brushel into that Mr. Brushel, end quote. Let's hear your testimony then, shall we? A simple case, eh, Gavin? For me, the jury is still out. The journalist's story. I visited the studio around 9 o'clock that night to do the interview. The first outsider entered the atelier. Journalistic history made, end quote. His daughter brought us coffee right after we started. And you know what happened next? Star falls, end quote. No one else entered the room besides her the whole time.
That does sound like a simple case. Unless you were the one who poisoned him.
What are you saying, Judge?
Need I remind you, the cameras are rolling today. I felt the need to be a bit dramatic.
You didn't do it, did you? Me do a thing like that? Come on, that's like newsmaker making the news, end quote. Or even contemporary witch hunt, end quote. I know, wild accusations rock courtroom, end quote.
Rock indeed.
Prosecutor Gavin sure looks like he's having fun.
I'm so happy for him. Very well, Mr. Justice. Your cross-examination, please. Bring it on.
Let's take this bit by bit. I visited the studio around 9 o'clock that night to do the interview.
9 o'clock at night? Isn't that a little late for an interview?
If the great painter Drew Misham says, come at 9, believe you me, I go at 9. The first and, as it turned out, last interview with such a prolific painter.
Right. Can you tell us what it was like when you arrived?
The first outsider to enter the atelier. Journalistic history made, end quote. You were the first reporter ever in Drew's studio? Posterity will look back on that night as a turning point in journalistic history. A basically insignificant step for all mankind. But a giant step for that Brushel guy, end quote. If no one on the outside ever had access to the studio, then it would serve to reason that the deed was done by an insider. By which he means Vera did it. So, how did this epoch-making interview go? His daughter brought us coffee right after we started. Would you mind being a little more specific? Hoo-wee, let me tell you, I enjoy a cuppa. In fact, it all began when I was in 3rd grade. No, wait, 4th grade. That's not what I meant. I mean, if I know what Air 4 head is driving at. This coffee the victim was served. Did anyone other than the defendant touch it? Oh, right, that. That's what I was gonna say, really. Well, now, if you've got a question to ask, you'd best straight up ask it. That's what I tell all the new recruits, several times if necessary. Right for a grade schooler. That's my motto. Which isn't to say I can... Oh, I couldn't read that in time. Who touched the coffee? Dunno. I was in the back looking at the studio's equipment when she served it. And what happened next? And you know what happened next? Star falls, end quote. What's this about a star falling? Star falls, huh? It's like an old telegram. Send money, over. Zowie, you don't know? That's like a journalism code word. An important person passes away. A star falls, get it? But there's no gravity in space, is there? Sure there is, there's lots of gravity. I wouldn't think stars could fall, really. Does this matter? Oh boy, this is good stuff, good stuff. How about star breaks? Nah, lacks punch. I know, star dies. Nah, lacks imagination. Of course, you could go with Drew dies, straight to the point, I like it. I think we need to hear about something a little more substantial. Tell me about the moment of death. About when Mr. Misham passed away. Oh boy, what a scene that was! He puts his coffee mug down with a crash, right?
Yes, and then?
Then the cold finger of death touches his spine. Life's flame sputters and fails. So cold was that touch he could do naught but tremble uncontrollably. Can we just take a moment and just compare this face to that dialogue? It's like, God, this guy's a piece of work. Actually, life's flame's a little tired. Life's river froze over. Yes, that's a go. I think he's starting his article already. Could you describe that a little more simply? Well, as you can imagine, I was pretty surprised. He hit the floor, as they say. Artist seizure as final performance, end quote. Atroquinine paralyzes the central nervous system. The body arcs back like a... Oh.
That's quite enough of that. Some of us want to be able to sleep tonight.
Oh yeah? Well, I want details, lots of juicy details. For that, you can listen to our last year's hit single, Atroquinine, My Love, by the Gaviners. Available at all major music outlets.
Really? The point here is that the victim died of atroquinine poisoning. Well, Mr. Justice, how did you find that testimony?
Isn't atroquinine slow acting? Yeah. It takes like 15 minutes for the effects to kick in. And also, the coffee mug didn't fall with a crash. It was just sitting there normally on like a bench, right? There's a lot suspicious about that. It's very important. Well, as an account of the moment of the victim's death, I'd say it's very important. Please add it to the testimony.
Very well. The court requests the witness to add this account to his testimony.
Those spasms? That was definitely death by poison. Oh. Well, that's not as clear-cut as I would want it to be. You say it was definitely death by poison. How can you be so sure? Hey, look, I'm a journalist. I've seen a lot of things. And I've had more than my share of experience with so-called poisonings. Man eats fishy fish, goes bye-bye, end quote. Food poisoning doesn't count. Should I get him to talk about something else? Yeah. Tell me about the Stars coffee. You say Mr. Misham had the coffee too. But did you actually see him drink the coffee? Of course. He who sees it wins, but he who says it wins bigger, end quote. I live in a man sees dog eat dog and writes about it world, yet? I guess I can't say I saw him drink it, really. He had one so-called sip, if that. Man puts lips to mug, drinks, end quote.
That poison is quite virulent, I hear.
My stomach did a so-called somersault, since I'd gulped down that coffee without so much as a second glance at it. Wait, maybe something's there, some kind of so-called trick. Anyone want to venture a guess for the record? Does this guy have a pause button?
Well, Mr. Justice, did you find that testimony valuable?
I mean, I guess we can just see what it says. Oh, right, yeah. The victim drank his coffee, then immediately fell over? Oh, yes, you can go to press with that one. Your Honor, this is a vital piece of information. Please add it to the testimony.
Very well. The witness will add this to his testimony.
Vital, right. He had one sip, if that. The next moment, he was on the floor.
You lie.
We don't have evidence for the entrocanine right here, but traces of the slow-acting deadly poison atrocanine. There we go. You know what I have a problem with? A particular property of the poison used, atrocanine.
Oh, Prosecutor Gavin was quite clear about the poison. A lethal dosage of 0.002 mg paralyzes the central nervous system.
Is that in milligrams, I think? Yeah.
If you drank that, even you, Mr. Justice, would be reduced to a quivering pile.
Why are you using me as an example? Unfortunately, we weren't told everything. There was a vital omission in Prosecutor Gavin's information.
An omission?
Atrocanine is as virulent as he says, but death doesn't come upon ingestion, not immediately. That's because atrocanine is slow-acting.
Slow-acting?
What? According to one forensic scientist, it's one of the most virulent poisons, but is absorbed into the bodies astonishingly slowly. It takes at least 15 minutes from the time of ingestion for adverse effects to show. If we suppose that the moment Mr. Misham sipped the coffee was when he sealed his fate, then he would still have had time left to enjoy his last cup of joe. Now, what a stick figure.
Order, order! What's the meaning of this? If what the defense says is correct, why, that contradicts the entire testimony we've just heard.
Well, Mr. Brushel, anything to say? On the record? Slow acting. SLOWACT. It was virulent, right? Even then, it had already begun digging its claws into the journalist. He's working on his scoop.
Objection!
It's Brushel, yeah? Herr Brushel. Let's take a trip back down memory lane. Huh? Did the victim really die the instant he took a sip? Think it over. This is vital. You know what I think? I think that was... not so subliminal suggestion. End quote. I admit it does cause a problem if he died when you say he died. I'd be forced to say off Wiedersehen to my simple case. What the hell is that? Goodbye? And you would be forced to say farewell to your article. Come again? You can't write a story based on conjecture, can ya? And as the case drags on, other reporters will pick up the scent. And you'll be forced to kiss your exclusive scoop goodbye. Scoop. Scoop. Look at this man. Oh, I hate him. Look, wait, just a second, just 1 second.
We're waiting, out with it.
I think I just recalled a so-called important detail. A revival of recollection, end quote. A story's survival, end quote. Attorney utterly confused, end quote. Actually, I did notice something when I visited the studio. I'd heard of poison that takes its sweet time, see? But not what I've been saying for the last few minutes, apparently.
Mr. Brushel, are you saying you noticed something that explains what happened?
You bet I am. The antidote for a poisonous contradiction, end quote, you might say. Or, I still have no idea what you're talking about, end quote, I might say. I figured it out, but only after an in-depth interview. See, thanks to my journalism skills, I know who poisoned that coffee.
Order, order, order! As far as I can tell,
the witness is standing by his testimony. That Mr. Misham died the instant after he drank. Of course I'm standing by my testimony. And my dream of exclusive rights to his story. I suppose it was too much to hope for. What was? Of course he wouldn't choose a simple case, not him.
Him?
Phoenix Wright, who else? Achtung, Herr Brushel. Report for us, if you would. What is it that you noticed?
This court is a critical trial for the juris system. I'm afraid no room for doubt is permissible. You will testify to the court about what you noticed.
When I arrived at the studio, Mr. Misham was at his desk. He seemed to be writing a letter, but he quickly sealed the envelope. That envelope's 7 years old, my dude. I thought nothing of it at the time, of course. Now that I think about it, what if he was writing a suicide note?
A suicide note?
Yes, he had this look on his face. Man's face inscrutable as a quadratic equation, end quote. Suicide? Poor Mr. Misham. But that means Vera's innocent. Would someone commit suicide in the middle of an interview? Oh.
Very well, you may begin your cross-examination.
When I arrived at the studio, Mr. Misham was at his desk. Oh, my throat. Was there anyone else at the studio other than Mr. Misham? Well, his daughter Vera, of course. Was anyone beside Mr. Misham and Vera present? Not a single one. Not a cat, not a rat, not even a mouse. The only person who didn't belong to that studio there was you, wasn't it, Mr. Brushel? I know what you're doing. I know your game. Attorney uses classic Ramsden phenomenon ploy, end quote. If you intend to suggest that this reporter is a suspect, I'm sure you also intend to present evidence supporting that assertion, correct? In the meantime, let's move along, shall we? He seemed to be writing a letter, but he quickly sealed the envelope. So he put the letter away when he saw you? Early reporter gets worm, end quote. That's my secret. I am not sure I follow. It's the night of the interview. I arrive 15 minutes ahead of schedule. The handle turns, the door opens, and I barge in. Are you sure that's okay to do? I mean, isn't that unlawful entry, really? Mr. Misham sure seemed to think so. You should have seen him. He crammed his letter into that yellow envelope as fast as he could. Yellow? Wow. R.I.P. to colorblind players. I know a secret when I spot one, and that was one.
It does seem significant. Well, Mr. Justice?
I wonder. It does have the ring of something important. Add it. The defense finds this testimony vital, Your Honor.
Very well, please add it to the testimony then.
Hey, why not? My account comes free of charge. It was a yellow envelope. I heard it was left at this crime scene.
Oh, okay, wait. Yeah, okay, never mind. It says it's red. I forgot.
Objection! As it just so happens, there was a single letter in a desk drawer at the scene. In a red envelope. What?
I'm sorry, I was rendered speechless just now.
How weird can this guy get? Prosecutor Gavin. Yes? Was a yellow envelope found at the scene of the crime? Unfortunately, no. But, Air Forehead. It's easy to mistake the color of an envelope. I guess. But not this envelope. You see, it was postmarked already, 7 years ago.
Well, Mr. Brushel?
I can explain that. Drew, right? He wanted to get that letter in an envelope pronto. Get it out of sight of my beady eyes, right? So he grabbed the nearest envelope and crammed away. And what about the whole red and yellow envelope contradiction, chump?
Well, Mr. Justice, have you anything to say to the witness's claim?
That night, the victim put a letter he had been writing in a red envelope. It's impossible, right? Because it had to be steam resealed, right? Yeah, right? It's steam resealed. It's impossible. That's impossible. I like your expression. So full of confidence. It's simple, really. As it just so happens, the defense team investigated the contents of this envelope. with, the assistance of a forensic scientist. What? Note that this letter is addressed to Drew Misham. Oh? Why would he address a letter to himself? Oh, right. Let alone send a suicide note to himself. I've been scooped!
Order, order, order! Mr. Brushel, can you explain this to the court?
Oh my. How could I have forgotten? I suppose this happens to the best of us. Reporter gets old, forgets lots, end quote.
I'm still waiting for an explanation, Mr. Brushel.
Well, that's a thing. See, after he put his letter in that envelope, Mr. Misham sat there searching his desk drawer for something. His desk drawer? Yes, a stamp, so-called postage stamp, end quote.
A stamp? Whatever for?
Well, to mail his letter, what else? And then, why, yes, I think I saw him put it in this letterbox. Yes, it was a yellow envelope and he put it in that box.
Well, apparently this yellow letter has
nothing to do with this case. Oh, how I wish it did. Just think if that were a suicide note. What a story. Star writes suicide note in front of reporter, falls, end quote.
Ahem. As I was saying, that has nothing to do with this case.
I've never seen the judge so mad.
That said...
Yes, Your Honor?
It makes me wonder about the contents of that red envelope. $100,000 is quite a good deal of money.
So this was from 7 years ago, yeah? So, am I finished here? Am I finished here? I was thinking of, going home to start writing. I hate to state what should be pretty obvious to anyone, but when you catch the scent of a story, you make that, rather unique face. Come on! Attorney has active imagination, little else, end quote.
Even I noticed something, and my eyes aren't what they used to be. I'm starting to understand what all this perceiving stuff is about.
Judge has active imagination, end quote.
Please continue with your testimony. Tell us about the scent of a story.
Hey, I'm the one asking the questions here, usually. Please let this be the last one of this guy. I miss Old Bag. Can't believe I'm saying that. Okay, look, I'm kind of playing out my despair and distaste. It's not really that bad. Like, he's tolerable? Barely? Anyway. Actually, it took a bit of work to get a thumbs up to the interview. Reporter leverages story, gets his interview, end quote. The story concerned a certain case from 7 years ago. That red envelope probably had something to do with it. Say what you will, but Drew's talent was without compare.
So you threatened to go to the press with this story. That's how you got your interview. Blackmail?
Well, yes. No. It wasn't exactly black. I'm not...
Something wrong, Mr. Brushel?
Look, this is my story, my tidbit, journalist info's livelihood, end quote.
I see.
While you have me chatting away in here, what's going on out there? What if some wily Wordsworth or Sally Scooper gets wind of my story. They could be going to press while I'm going to waste.
The court feels your pain, Mr. Brushel. Mr. Justice, let's pick up the pace.
A certain case 7 years ago. Wait, 7 years ago? Yeah, Drew and Valent somehow connected. Actually, it took a bit of work to get a thumbs up on the interview. Wait, the bracelet was glowing. Oh! The victim, Drew Misham, had an aversion to reporters? Boy, I guess. Not even my considerable charms did much for him. Until I finally got my thumbs up, that is. Maybe you can elaborate on that a bit for us? Well, this statement here, the red envelope had something to do with it, that's probably true. So why would I use a bracelet on it? That said, it's still the most suspicious line here, I think. Maybe we need to press everything first. Maybe get a new testimony on there. Exactly what sort of story was this? Oh, a little one, like I said. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing in between. End quote. I might have suggested I had a lead on this particular story. But I didn't threaten or cajole or nothing, honestly. So a suggestion was enough to get an interview. Mr. Misham must have really wanted to keep it under wraps. The story concerned a certain case from 7 years ago. A certain case 7 years ago? Tell us, what case? Let me state one thing, Mr. Attorney, and you can quote me on this. I can't talk about that case. Why not? It's about journalistic pride and staunchness and credibility and connections. Journalist reveals sources only over his dead body, end quote. So what'll it be? Gonna strangle me? Dead men don't tell no tales. He sounds pretty determined not to talk. Our chances of breaking his will aren't looking good. This is a bracelet on this. A certain case from 7 years ago. I don't see anything weird with that. Red envelope probably had something to do with it. Let's try this one. Stop staring at me! I really don't see anything different. Drew's talent was without compare? Maybe this. Say what you will. Drew's talent was without compare. Let's hear that once more. Okay, this is the first bracelet use that's actually kind of stumping me a bit. Let's press this one. Just how amazing was Mr. Misham's talent? Huh? Hoo-wee boy, I mean, hey, he's a star, man, a star! The flow of his brush is like a great undulating river across a canvas. Hardest paints light up studio like sun, end quote. This guy is full of wacky gestures. That one just now was wackier than usual. He looks kind of nervous to me, Apollo. Definitely. I'm sensing something different than before here. Maybe it's time to bring out you know what. Well, that's the game telling me that it's definitely this last little bit. Okay. Let's look at this very carefully. His brush. Or his fingers. Maybe his arm. Okay, nothing about his toothbrush or fingers change. I don't get it. Is there anything different about his mouth, or... No. Did I just see his arm move here? His right arm? Huh. Wait. Yo, this guy's left-handed. Huh. Okay, maybe his ears wiggle. Have I looked at his ears? I'm just really not seeing anything right here. Maybe this isn't the right sentence. Weird. Maybe it's this. Maybe we have to say that maybe he wasn't there for an interview. Like, the interview's just a cover. Oh, God! Why? Oh, man, okay. Yeah, no. You did say you barged in. Maybe you didn't get a thumbs up at all. Let's see. It took a bit of work to get a thumbs up on the interview. This guy's just not moving at all. Alright, I'm running out of patience. I'm just gonna look this up. I'm stuck. It's this one. Drew's talent was without compare. Apparently it's his armpit? One of these? Oh my god, is that sweat? Oh my god. Okay. What?
Gotcha!
I don't blame myself at all for missing this. Because what in the sweet hell kind of logic is that? His sweat disappears mid-sentence. That's really stupid. That's really frickin' stupid. Sweat much, Mr. Brushel? Yeah, well, a man can't help his glance, you know. It's more than that. When Mr. Misham's talent was mentioned, he suddenly began to sweat buckets. Ack! You're hiding something about his talent. What? That's ridiculous. Evidence time. Let's show where Mr. Misham's true talent lay. It just so happens I have evidence showing the talent mentioned in that letter. Do I? Is it the landscape? Wait, where's the hidden painting? Yeah. This painting was found in Mr. Misham's studio. There are two problems with this painting. The first is it wasn't painted by Mr. Misham. The second is that there was another painting in the studio which looked exactly like this one, except it was half done. Then we have a letter discussing a payment of $100,000, which suggests a certain business operation. The business of making forgeries. That is all, Your Honor. Everyone, please, everyone! Can we keep this private, please? This is my story, my scoop!
Forgery? That's a serious crime.
Drew Misham is known as an artist these days, but there were rumors he dabbled in another kind of art until a few years back.
Another art? Meaning forgery?
Drew Misham was talented, all right. Talented at making precise, detailed fakes. A fact that certain criminal elements were quick to discover. Criminal elements? What? You can't seriously be talking about... Exactly! I'm talking about forging evidence! Oh. Oh, wow. Okay. The rumor started circulating 7 years ago.
Is this 7 years ago? So are we to understand that this letter This payment of $100,000 was for...
Exactly. Forged evidence nets tidy profit, end quote.
Order, order, order! Why, it's like our victim was living a double life.
Aha! This is my chance. So the victim had ties to the criminal world, right? He could have had plenty of enemies we know nothing about. This is my first time hearing of this criminal world. We certainly found no criminal connections when we conducted our investigation. But how do you explain all this money? You have to admit there's a possibility of some illegal activity there. But there is no proof tying this letter to our case. Our case was, and remains, simple from the beginning. Only the defendant could have poisoned that mug that night. And you, of course. Hey, the only thing I poison is my pen when I'm writing reviews.
Mr. Brushel, your testimony to this point has been quite unreliable. It doesn't speak well of your reporting acumen.
What are you talking about? My journalism is rock solid. Journalism so solid you could stand an elephant on it, end quote.
In any case, let's hear a summarized recap of your testimony. If we can ascertain the situation in that studio from the recap, the trial is over.
Apollo? What's he talking about? The cross-examination showed Mr. Brushel didn't have reason or means to poison him. As long as there's no other suspects, then the killer had to be Vera, that's what. This next testimony is our last chance.
Mr. Brushel, your testimony, please.
Okay. As much as I would like to get this quote-unquote last cross-examination with Brushel over with, I think it'd probably be best to end things here, because I can kind of sense that once this is through, something big is going to happen. So, Phoenix Wright was disbarred because he used forged evidence in a trial. This happened, I think, 7 years ago? Or 9? I think. Where do I get 9 years ago from? What was 9 years ago? Was 9 years just the events of the original trilogy? I think it was. Oh man. Well, this case here is definitely intrinsically tied with the events of 7 years ago, but... God, there's gonna be so much we have to uncover to make everything work. Like, if we're gonna be solving the disappearance of Zach Gramery in this case, like, how? The crime scene was 7 years ago. Could it really be solved with just hearsay and... Well, look, I know this franchise has pulled out magic tricks before by being able to conclusively solve murders from years and years ago with something as simple as, like, a metal detector. But, gosh... Well, anyway, of note, Brushel is left-handed. At least it looks like that. And the coffee mug, I was thinking, look at this. If you held it with your left hand like this, you would take a sip out of a perfectly normal side. But if you were right-handed, you would take a sip out of the poison side. So, maybe that's gonna be a thing later. Maybe. We should really look and see if Drew Misham was right-handed or left-handed. And speaking of Breschel being weird, that quill pen in his pocket, it's identical to the one that Drew had. So, what gives? There's something there too, I just know it. And also, why the hell is there atroquinine in this tiny portrait frame? Like, seriously, what gives about that? Anyway, guess we'll figure that stuff out next time. So, for now, I'm Zephyr the Jester. This has been more Apollo Justice Ace Attorney. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you next time. So until then, please take care.